Hey everyone, my name is Clifford James and welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to discuss something that I think a lot of beginner photographers generally don't really think about or have that much knowledge in using this type of tool. That's something that's, as most photographers use, is actually a really good thing to do. And I got thinking about this by looking back at some of my old photos and just the way I took the photos. And the thing I want to talk about is the way you angle your camera during taking a photo of a subject, because dropping down lower or higher, depending on what the subject is, will make a huge impact on the final image. And I think that's something, as a beginner photographer, you generally just don't think about that much. It's just so easy, just take your camera and go, oh, there's something really cool here, and you just stand here and take the shot. And especially if there's something on the ground, let's say a bug that you really want to take a photo of, you tend to just grab your camera, stand here and take the shot. But in certain situations like that, the best thing to do is actually drop down at the same level of your subject. Let's say it's a caterpillar walking across the ground. Drop down to the same level as it, and you get a little bit of a deeper feeling towards the image, and you get a bit more of a sense of the surroundings of your subject as well, because you feel you're more there and more connected with it. There are certain situations, especially with landscape photography, where it's okay just to stand and take the shot as you are. But I think it's really good to then take that shot and then try out different ways, try different angles, maybe shooting through some branches, or using, if there's water there, using the water to kind of follow through to the landscape. And it's really good to get in the habit of trying out different angles and making sure you get a better shot. Okay, so here's a pretty good example of how I can explain this right now. As you can see, there's some water just flowing down here. It's quite a nice little location that I found, singled out pretty much in the middle of the forest here. And I think most people would just look at this and go, oh wow, that's pretty cool. And you just get your camera and you take a shot. And sometimes, yes, that will work out, but let me just show you in this situation. I'll just quickly take a photo of what I'm seeing right now. I mean, it's okay, it's nothing special. But what I want to do is, as you can see, there's places for me to go walk. I can go walk around it, try and see what other angles will work, try different levels, and then I'll show you a photo where I've spent a little bit of time on it and showcased exactly what I wanted to get. But I will say one thing, and I'm using a 70 to 300mm lens. Generally, I'd probably use something a little bit wider for this situation. So I will say that a lens will make a huge impact depending on your subject. So you do need to bear that in mind. If you're going to certain areas, you might need a specific lens for that exact area you're taking photos in. But if you're good enough, you will find a way to use whatever lens you have. And for me in general, I like to use something that you wouldn't necessarily use in the area, just to give you a little bit more of a push into finding a way to take a photo of something and make it work. But yeah, let me walk around and I'll kind of discuss what my thoughts are when I find a position that I think will work for this. I've kind of been walking around a little bit now just to see what kind of angles will work on this little bit of waterfall here. And well, I'm now down just below it and facing, actually not directly head on. Most of the time I think that's something we would do, is try and get as much of that water in there. But I'm really trying to showcase how much of a difference taking your shot at a really different angle can really make something look so different. I'll quickly show you what I'm looking at now. It's okay, it's a nice enough shot, but it doesn't really give you that feeling of being drawn in or that artistic feeling to this. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to use these rocks as a way of drawing you into the waterfall. So I'm actually going to pretty much sit down into the rocks here, and there's a little drop or a ledge down here and a couple of more rocks that are almost into like a V position, and the waterfall literally fits within that. And I think that's what's going to make this look good. So I actually want to use those rocks as a way to draw you in, but the rocks in the foreground will actually be blurred out. I'm focusing directly onto a rock in between the two parts of the water where it splits. And it just gives a really different feel to it. It just looks a lot better. It has, yeah, it just seems a little bit more artistic rather than just a quick snapshot. But I will say, obviously your settings are going to make a big difference here. And because it's water, I want it to look like it's moving. So I'm actually going to shoot this at 1/30th of a second. Normally I'd probably use a tripod right now to stabilize the camera just to get a better image out of it, knowing that everything's going to be sharp and no shake is going to be in the photo. But I know at 1/30th of a second this camera can handle it really well, plus the stabilization in the lens. So that works quite nicely. So I've got it at 1/30th of a second, f7.1, just to draw a good amount of detail, and my ISO is down at 100. So let me just quickly show you, or let me take this shot, and you can see the results afterwards. And also I went down a little bit further where there's a puddle of water here, just to see how the angle would work there as well. So what I ended up doing is actually dropping the camera down towards the water and using the water to draw you into the waterfall. I don't like that photo as much, but this one I think is pretty much a really good keeper for me. Trying to say in this video is, when you go out to a location, it's very quick and easy to see something that's beautiful and go, oh wow, that's great, let me just take a shot of that, and just expect it to work, putting it out on social media because it's a great shot, because it's a great location. But that's not always the case. You need to look at your subject, see what works in different ways, focus on trying to get that subject to be a little bit more artistic, or find ways to draw it out, or find a way to make a story out of it. So getting different angles, dropping down lower, shooting through something like a tree or whatever will make a huge difference to the final image, and you'll be so much happier you spent that time rather than just taking a quick snapshot and be thinking you're happy with that, because knowing you spent that time makes a whole lot of difference, and you will come home with something much better. And just quickly while we're here, this episode was sponsored by Lumini AI, which is a great piece of software for editing photos, and it allows some things you wouldn't necessarily get without adding something different to your camera, and it just allows for something a little bit more artistic, some way of finishing your photo, just that little extra push to make it a little bit more artistic. So I suggest you go check it out. I have the link below. But otherwise, thank you so much all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.